Hello, hello, hello. Wow, it is January the 24th. Have you missed me? Did you notice I was gone? Gosh, what a month I've had. Just technical nonsense. So let me get this off my chest. Computer went down. I have a couple of computers, but I have my main one. It's all hooked up to all the gadgets and everything, and computer went down. So I ordered another one and it's getting custom made and all this stuff. And anyway, long story short, it ends up being, I think it is 7 weeks late. I just got it today. So the first thing I'm doing is recording a podcast because I tried to record a few from my laptop with a different mic and the audio was so bad I just couldn't do it. So I've just been waiting for my new computer. And you guys were the first thing I thought about. Gosh, I have got so much to talk about, so many topics, but let me just start with a few for today. So there's kind of three things I want to talk about. I want to talk about, how we're starting the year off and the struggle and the cycles that some of us go through. And then I want to talk about a little exercise to consider, an ugly one, but it's worth considering. And then I want to talk about estrogen dominance. So let me start at the beginning. We are January the 24th. So gosh, we're almost in February. I mean, the first month is almost gone. And that means the New Year's resolutions are slipping away, and maybe there's a layer of disappointment creeping in as what you intended to do from the beginning of the year hasn't quite happened yet. And please know that that is really, really common. As a trainer, nutritionist, people always think that the busiest time of the year is going to be at the beginning of the year. Like, oh, January must be so busy for you. No, it's actually kind of my quietest month, and it always has been. And that is because people just aren't ready to get ready on January the 1st. The kids got to go back to school, they've got to get organized, food gets restocked, all the nonsense. It's really about now. It's really about the third week in January that people actually get their groove going. So I usually don't run anything at all the first 3 weeks in January. That being said, some of you might be disappointed in yourselves, like, oh gosh, almost in February, I haven't done the thing yet, whatever the thing is. Maybe circling around old desires, old goals, maybe things that you've been wanting for year after year, maybe decade after decade. Well, there's a analogy I want to share. You know how much I love analogies right now, and it's the monkey bar. So the monkey bars, and guys from California, on Santa Monica Beach, and the monkey bars where you swing from one ring to the next, to the next, to the next. If you haven't done it recently, I'm sure you did it as a kid. If you didn't do it as a kid, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. The metaphor of life. If you are holding on to a couple of monkey bars and you want to swing forward, you have to let go of the ring behind you, right? You might be able to grab the next ring, but you can't actually move to it until you let go of the ring behind. And that is the metaphor for habits, behaviors, the old you, if you want to say it like that. But we have to let go. Too often we're trying to change or expect change without changing ourselves. And very often I see this all the time, especially at this time of the year. People are very willing to add something to their life. So they'll add a program, they'll add a training session, they'll add a diet, they'll add something or other, but they don't take anything away. And this falls under the, file this as wanting to change without changing yourself. If you want to progress and swing to that next monkey bar, you have to let go of the ring behind you. So the question then is, what are you willing to give up? To move forward in whatever your endeavor might be, this doesn't have to have anything to do with body composition, but what are you willing to give up? We're always willing to add something, and then we fill our days, fill our weeks, and we're just busy, 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 running in circles. But what are you willing to give up? What action? What habit? What about your behaviors? Are you just like, no more? They have to go if I am going to swing forward to the next ring. Because you can hang on to both rings at the same time. You can hang on to both monkey bars at the same time, but you can't actually move forward unless you let go. So what are you going to let go of? I love that metaphor. That also takes me on. So I've got this is all part of my Victory Vault program, which starts next Sunday, which is February the 2nd. It is a 2-week program, and it is exercise. This is like 16 different exercises of self-awareness, and we go through each topic, to each conversation. We do a little homework on it. We rehash it and make decisions on each topic. And at the end of the 2 weeks, there is an agreement that's made. And the idea is that once we've had a really close look at ourselves and we identify what needs to happen, who we need to be, what we need to give up, identify each point, and then we make an agreement at the end of who we're going to be, what we're going to do. And the whole idea of the Victory Vault is really to create ease. It is to create clarity and ease. It's not meant to make anybody feel bad. It's not meant, it's actually a very fun program. It's not meant to, it's actually inspiring, it's enlightening, it's exciting, it brings excitement. And that's because it brings clarity. And again, an ease of what you need to do. So do this exercise, and this is part of the Victory Vault. This is one of the, I mean, I go into it in a lot more detail. But what is the thing that you want from this year? What is it? Again, it doesn't have to be anything to do with body composition. You could be learning a second language. You could be starting a new career. You could have a side hustle. Or it can be body composition and health. I want to spend a little time, and if you achieve that, if you achieve the thing, what does life look like? How does life change if you achieve the thing? I really suggest, after the podcast, sit down, spend a good 10, 20 minutes on this. Not just like, oh, if I learn a second language, I'll be able to speak to somebody in Spanish or something. No, but like, what does it mean? How does your life change? How is your life better if you do the thing? Once you've finished doing that, I want you to go to the other scenario. What happens? What does life look like if you don't do the thing? The project, the study, the building muscle, the taking, improving your blood work, whatever. What does life look like if you don't do this thing, if you don't achieve it? And this is the side, and I actually had one lady refuse to do this, which is cool. I'm not your boss. And she refused to do it because she said, oh, you can't think negatively like that because I can't bring negative thoughts into my head. Well, she's right. Because that negativity, that's when you're very clear about what your life looks like if you don't achieve the thing, then that can be really ugly. That can be terrifying. And the reality is the brain makes us run faster away from things that we are frightened of than towards things we want. Think about that. The brain is wired, makes sense, survival, to run away faster from things it is frightened of than towards things it wants. And here lies the problem, dilemma. when it comes to goals, and because we can think of a goal and we can think, oh gosh, it would be so nice if I got that. My gosh, if I, you know, gain 10 pounds of muscle or something, that would be so nice. I'd look so great. I'd be so strong and my health would be better. That's so nice. I don't hear the trampede of ourselves moving towards that goal. It's wishy-washy, it's sweet, it's nice. But on the other side, if you say, hey, if I don't gain, that those 10 pounds, or if I don't get stronger, then, in 15 years, I'm going to be in a nursing home. I won't be able to look after myself. I'm going to have a fall. I'm going to age very quickly. My blood work's going to be even worse than it is now. That, premature death, that is, won't be able to play with my grandkid. That's ugly. Now that will drive you faster than, oh, it would be so nice to gain some muscle, look kind of cute, maybe wear a bikini again. Fabulous. But the opposite of that, so I call this the heaven versus hell scenario. And I was told off for calling it that as well, but okay. But recognizing the consequences if you don't take action is incredibly powerful. And I mean, I would spend a good 20, 30 minutes doing that. Like literally write out your day from beginning to end if you don't achieve the thing. If you don't achieve the thing. Now, my thing has got nothing to do with body composition. It's got nothing to do with health or anything. It's something completely different, something that I do completely different to any of my work. And when I achieve it, wow, there's a new identity there. There's a freedom there. There's a oh man, I'm going to feel super accomplished there. Um, if I don't, then wow, I can't even think of it. If I don't achieve it, that's years and years, a lot of money down the drain. If I stop, I just can't. So do the heaven and hell scenario, and that's one of the not as fun exercises that we do in the Victory Vault, but it's one of them. And again, it's in order to bring clarity and movement towards our goal. And you don't have to have a goal to join Victory Vault. You just have to have an aspiration, something that you're moving towards. And it certainly does not need to be huge. In fact, the huge goals can be a little bit problematic because when you've got this huge goal, sometimes your brain can't quite comprehend it. It doesn't seem real. It doesn't seem possible. So the brain just doesn't comprehend it. So somewhat dismisses it. It's for the same reason why, people that have 10-year goals, that's really fantastic. But the brain can't quite comprehend 10 years. But we can all agree that in 3 years, our life could be completely different. I mean, wherever we are in life, in 3 years, we could be living a completely different life. So, anyway, that's the Victory Vault. If you go to yourvictoryvault.com, there's the link there. Only offer it once a year. I had meant to actually do it the second week of January, but then with all the problems going in Los Angeles, where a lot of my friends and client base is situated, I just didn't. It seems so ridiculous to promote a program or promote anything while people are dealing with that. And of course, they're still dealing with that. But the time just didn't seem right. So that's why I'm starting it February the 2nd. So love for you to join. Super, super exciting. Think about those monkey bars and think about the heaven, but also think about the hell. Brings clarity and movement and urgency. Anyway, then I want to talk to you about estrogen dominance. And gosh, I'm going to do a separate podcast on my hormones and everything that how it all transpired by the end of the year. But estrogen dominance, guys, and I'll put a little diagram in the show notes. So estrogen dominance is it makes you think like high estrogen. Not really the case. both estrogen and progesterone are dropping, but what's happening is progesterone is dropping at a lower rate. So the ratio between the two increases in midlife, and it's classed as estrogen dominance. Estrogen dominance is what I affectionately call the circus. It can be anywhere from 35 years to 58 years, maybe even more. But it is a large part of a lady's life, and it can creep up on us. I also call it the Karen years, and I call it the Karen years because if you've ever seen the Karen videos of ladies behaving very badly, then what you will notice is those ladies are all of a certain age. And not usually a 20-year-old doing that, not usually a 70-year-old doing that. It's usually women of a 70 or of a certain age that have lost their mind for a moment. And as a lot of us can appreciate, that is probably somebody going through premenopause or a little bit of postmenopause. So I also call them the Karen years. Estrogen dominance is anxiety ridden. I mean, it is, you will lose your mind on the slightest thing, as illustrated by the Karens. No offense to any real Karens out there. It's linked to water retention, fat gain, inability to sleep, heart palpitations, all these horrible things. So estrogen and progesterone, the ratio between the two has changed. So then you go do your blood work and you'll be told, oh, well, you've got to do it on day 28, but of course your cycle is irregular. So, your cycle comes on day 27, you can't do it. Now you got to do it again. Oh, and then was that accurate? Was that close enough to your cycle to matter? Well, the thing is, the ratio should be the same all month long. So let me explain this. And you'll need your blood work for this. And if you haven't got your hormonal panel, then please go to lifeextension.com and purchase your own. The answer is always in the blood work. If you know what you're looking at, it's always in the blood work. So if we're looking at blood work, what we're going to do is we're going to take our estradiol. So estradiol is the estrogen that we're trying to hang on to for dear life. It is all the health benefits, heart health, brain health, bone, all of it, feel good, all of it, estradiol. And mine was 30, okay? You're going to add to that your esterone, and mine was 13. Is that right? Yeah, 13. And then you're going to look at your progesterone. And my progesterone was, I think it was 17. God, no, I forgot my numbers now I'm doing this. So what it is, the calculation is, you take your estradiol, so mine was 30, you add your esterone, so that was 13, and you divide it by your progesterone. No, that wasn't it. Okay, let me do that again. What was my progesterone? Double check. They were the numbers. Okay, so we've got estradiol of 30. I have esterone of 13, and my progesterone is 17. So you take the estradiol, you add it to the esterone, and you divide that by 17, and that gives you a number. For me, that gives me the number 2.5. So when it comes to estrogen dominance, and when we want to have a good estrogen-progesterone ratio, that number definitely has to be under 100. It really wants to be under 50, and ideally it's under 20. The closer you can get to 0, the better. So my number is 2.5, which would explain why I feel pretty good. My mind is clear, I'm in a good mood, I'm not anxious at all, feeling great. 2.5. Now the thing is, if you're using that calculation, it shouldn't, this is how miraculous the body is. It shouldn't matter where you are in your cycle, because the ratio should always be good. So if you're closer to your cycle, then your hormones are higher, but the ratio will be the same. Does that make sense? So it's not like the ratio is going to flip and flop all through the month. Now, but this is also, and again, I did this when I spoke about insulin resistance, using your triglycerides divided by your HDL. Go back in the podcast to find that calculation, or come onto my ooh, the signature weight loss program and the Mastering Midlife program. Any of those, I talk about it. But my point is, I have another client. Sorry, they were my numbers. Let me give you my other client. She was very similar to me. So she had estradiol of 30. She had estrone, I think, of 15. Her progesterone, however, was 0.1. Now, 0.1 is going to come up as normal. Depending on your age, it's going to come up as normal. So somebody's going to be like, okay, okay. But this, if I do this, so I've got 30 plus 15 divided by 0.01. Sorry. 45 divided by 0.1, sorry, 0.1. Which gives her a number of 450. This lady is way into estrogen dominance. This lady is also, gaining weight, anxious, trouble sleeping, the whole thing. And she is she's 5 years younger than me. She's in her 50s, but she's definitely younger than me. There was another lady. Oh, gosh, no, I'm struggling to remember her numbers, but I remember her ratio was 320. But again, if you'd have just looked at her estradiol, her estrone, and her progesterone, all of them were in the normal range. It's not until you do the ratio, the calculation. Yeah, she was at 320, and you're like, wow, no, you definitely got estrogen dominance, and that is this lady written all over her face. And this lady was in her 40s. You know, water retention, gaining weight, anxious, lack of sleep, but there's nothing wrong with your hormones. Well, I'm not saying there's something wrong, but the balance is off. Each of those three numbers was in the normal range. But when you did the ratio, the calculation, I mean, taking me 2.5 and taking the other lady, who the only difference was a progesterone, to 450. That's crazy. That also can be evident in somebody in a highly stressed state, because when you're in a highly stressed state and you're releasing a lot of cortisol, the adrenals having to make a lot of cortisol. Well, so cortisol is making you anxious. Progesterone is your natural antidepressant. So you're just burning through your progesterone in a high cortisol state. Your progesterone's trying to balance it out. Cortisol's making you anxious. Progesterone's meant to make trying to balance it out. So a highly stressed state is going to crush your progesterone even more. Which is why it's not uncommon to see ladies when they're first entering this, I call the circus or the Karen years, that their estrogen is somewhat declining, but it's okay. But their progesterone is crazy, crazy low. And that's often because they're entering those years, say after the age of 42, in a stressed state. Maybe they've been balancing a household and career and marriage and everything, and lack of sleep and just a lot, and highly stressed state. They go into those years with a very low progesterone, but maybe still in the normal range until I do this calculation, and then they're so far off. This is the scenario when a lady's body is changing, her mind's changing, she's insanely anxious, and but nothing's changed. I'm eating the same, I'm exercising the same, nothing's changed. Something has changed, and the answer is in your blood work. Ladies, estradiol, that's the estrogen we're trying to hold on to. Add estrone to that and divide that by your progesterone and look at your number. It really wants to be under 100, but ideally under 50, really ideally happy dance type numbers if you're under 20, but the closer you are to zero, the better. Don't just look at your numbers and be told they're normal. Do the math. Okay, I hope that helps. That's great for the first podcast back. I am so sorry. gosh, I did try to make some podcasts, but the audio was so bad. I was like on ear pods, and my mic wouldn't work on the computer, and it was a whole thing. But I'm back. So, some of the other subjects I am going to be talking about, I'm going to tell you about what my hormones ended up being by the end of the year. Because if you have followed the podcast, I went through a bit of a roller coaster last year. I'll bring the numbers up and tell you what I did and what worked and et cetera, et cetera. I want to talk about testosterone and the postmenopausal lady. I want to talk about metformin and its use as a longevity medication. And I want to talk about GLP-1. We all know about GLP-1 by now, the weight loss medication. But you should know that we make our own GLP-1. Um, and I want to tell you how, GLP-1 activation, release, and duration is fundamentally linked to what we eat. So there's certain food that we can eat which will actually have us produce more GLP-1, and that GLP-1 last. So all these subjects to come, and all these subjects I meant to do over the last month, but technology held me back. I would love, 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 love for you to join the Victory Vault, yourvictoryvault.com. It's probably was a very profound. I've only coached that program once before. It was profound when I did it last year. It changed my whole year for me. There was something I was procrastinating on, and after I taught that program, I jumped on it, and it made for a real successful 9 months. So, if every year you've got the same desires, the same goals, the same things you want, and you're not achieving them, it's not that you don't want them. It's not that you're doing anything wrong. Sorry. We just have to clear up like what we need to do. I can give people the most perfect diets, most perfect workouts, but we've got to create the mindset and the clarity in order to achieve, these goals. And if we haven't achieved them, then there's nothing wrong with the goals. It's the foundation that you're starting with. So it's the program is fun, it's fascinating, it's super encouraging. And again, to repeat myself, it brings clarity and ease. That's the whole purpose of it. A 2-week program. It is 5 live coaching calls. There's about 16 different topics. Fascinating. Just the opportunity to just pause and just take the luxury of studying yourself for a little bit. That's all. After that, there will be the protein challenge, which is just simply a 2-week program. And the only goal is to get 130 grams of protein in per day, and the guys 180 grams. The only goal, and then all the coaching calls are surrounding the topic of the importance of protein and why people were scared of it, the fear of protein, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then I'm changing course a little bit. I think I'm going to go straight into muscle month after that. Oh, because that's what people are always asking me about. And if I do it at the beginning of the year, I might be able to run that program twice. So I've got everything set for my year. I'm hoping that your year is looking fantastic. And now I'm back. Expect much more frequent podcasts. But again, I would love to see you in the Victory Vault. We start a week on Sunday, February the 2nd. Bye for now.